The truth behind the 1978 Japan series begins not with celebration, but with a silence so heavy, players later said they could still hear it echoing in their dreams. A silence that hinted something extraordinary was about to unfold, something no one outside the dugout ever saw coming. Most fans remember the champagne, the confetti, the moment Yakult lifted their very first Japan series trophy. But almost nobody knows what happened in the hours, the days, and the innings that led to that historic night. The fractures, the fears, the moments when destiny seemed to slip out of their hands. It begins with a locker room filled with doubt. Yakult, still young in the world of Japanese professional baseball, walked into the series against the legendary Hankyu Braves. A dynasty, a monster, a team that had tasted victory so many times they moved like champions before the first pitch was even thrown. Some said Yakult didn't stand a chance. Some said they were too inexperienced, too soft, too untested. And deep down, even a few Yakult players wondered the same thing. Yet, amid the whispers and predictions, something strange happened. A quiet fire began to burn. Not loud, not flashy, just steady. A fire that grew with every swing, every pitch, every heartbeat. Before Game 1, their manager stood in the center of the room, looking at faces full of nervous energy. He didn't shout. He didn't lecture. He simply said, if you're going to fear something, fear the moment you look back and realize you didn't give enough. Those words settled into the players like screws tightening into steel. Game 1 hit them hard. Hankyu showed exactly why they dominated the league for years. Power, precision, a suffocating presence that forced Yakult into mistake after mistake. The loss wasn't just on the scoreboard, it was etched onto their confidence. But the next morning, something unusual happened at practice. Veterans who usually kept to themselves started talking. Youngsters who used to stay quiet suddenly spoke louder. The team, once fragmented, began to move as a single unit. By Game 3, the tide felt different. Yakult wasn't just surviving, they were fighting. Every inning felt like a battle. Every out felt like it had a heartbeat of its own. And then came the moment fans still whisper about. A late inning pitch that should have been a routine strike. A swing that should have ended the threat. But instead, a blast. A home run that cut through the stadium air like a blade. The sound stunned the crowd into silence before erupting into chaos. Yakult had taken the lead. The players didn't erupt into celebration. They didn't pump their fists or scream. They simply looked at one another, eyes wide, stunned at what they had just done. In the dugout, their ace pitcher sat with his head bowed, gripping the ball so tightly his fingers shook. He whispered, "Just give me the mound. I won't let it go." The final outs of that game weren't baseball, they were war. Every pitch scraped the edges of exhaustion. Every swing from Hankyu felt like a hammer trying to crack a fragile miracle. And when the last out landed safely in a glove, the entire team collapsed, not in triumph, but in relief. They had survived. And for the first time, they started to believe they could win. But behind the scenes, tension was rising. One of Yakult's star players was fighting through a hidden injury, an injury the public never knew existed. His ankle was swelling so badly after each game that trainers had to pack it with ice until it turned nearly purple. Yet he stepped onto the field anyway, running with pain he hid behind gritted teeth. Another player was dealing with crushing pressure from the media. Critics wrote that he wasn't ready, that he'd choke when it mattered most. Every headline felt like a weight tightening around his chest. Still, he showed up. Still, he swung. Still, he fought. Game 5 became the turning point, an epic duel etched into baseball history. Yakult and Hankyu traded blows inning after inning, like two fighters who refused to fall. Every time Yakult pulled ahead, Hankyu answered. Every time Hankyu surged, Yakult clawed back. By the 9th inning, the stadium felt like a storm about to burst. Yakult was clinging to a one-run lead. One run separating destiny from heartbreak. One run standing between history and the same old story. The pitcher stepped onto the mound, trembling with fatigue. The dugout held its breath. Every fan stood. The entire country seemed to freeze. The final batter stepped in. A powerhouse. A legend. A man capable of flipping the entire series with a single swing. The first pitch, ball. Second pitch, foul. Third pitch, strike. The count tightened. The tension suffocated the air. Then came the pitch that defined everything. A fastball, high and blazing. The batter unleashed a monstrous swing, aiming to rewrite fate. The crack echoed across the stadium. The ball rose, rising, toward the outfield wall. Time slowed. The crowd gasped. Players leaned forward. The outfielder sprinted, chasing the ball with every ounce of life left in his legs. He timed the jump, stretched his glove, reached into the sky, and caught it. The stadium exploded. Yakult had taken control of the series. But the drama wasn't over. Before the final game, the injured star nearly collapsed from pain. Trainers told him to sit. Coaches begged him to rest. But he refused. "If we're going to win our first championship," he said, "I'll be on that field even if I'm crawling." Those words spread through the team like lightning. They walked onto the field that day with a calm fierceness no one had ever seen from them. Not fear, not nerves, just purpose. The final game played like a dream written by destiny itself. Yakult swung with fury. They pitched with fire. Every play felt like the universe had tilted in their favor. And when the final out dropped into a glove, when the roar of triumph erupted, when the Yakult Swallows lifted their first ever Japan Series trophy, it wasn't just a victory. It was an eruption of every bruise, every tear, every doubt, every sleepless night, every quiet moment when they wondered if they were good enough. They didn't just win baseball games. They defeated expectation. They crushed history. They rewrote their identity. Behind the trophy, behind the cheers, behind the cameras, there was a moment only the players saw. A moment when they gathered in a circle, arms over shoulders, silently taking in what they had done. No speeches, no shouting, just the awareness that they had become something greater, together. And that is the hidden truth behind Yakult's first Japan Series victory. A story of pain carried silently. A story of unity forged under pressure. A story of a team no one believed in, until they believed in themselves. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change everything.